Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of the Enhance Your World show. I am your co host, Chris Alba. Larkin may be joining us today. She's currently helping her father. And so we will see what unfolds in today's show, of course. And today's episode title is The River, the Quality and the Quantity of Our Perception, our participation, rather. And perception definitely goes into play with that, right? Um, and excuse me one second. Forgot to close the door. All right. So Larkin and I were talking about consciousness, and we really want to try to illuminate um, on the fact that all teachings. Hey, Mark, thanks for joining. Um, that all teachings are a part of consciousness. We are a part of consciousness. Source is consciousness. Creator is consciousness. Uh, these words and these labels try to define and capture um, a concept so we can communicate and we can relate to one another through language and through arts and expressions and things like that. Um, before there was English, there was sound. Um, a lot of animals in our nature communicate through sound, and they can interpret it the way they do. I don't know if it's as eloquent as the languages that we've created as humans, but at the same time, they communicate through their expression, through their sound, through their voice. And it's things that we share like this that um, I know for me with Gauge Your Life and the ministry and enhancing your world, we're trying to work on universal basis, and that means we reflect the stories of nature. We reflect things that we all share in common because we can talk about a bird singing, and we don't necessarily have to agree on what the definition of God is or how it plays into our life. It doesn't. It's not part of our belief system because it just is, and that's what I love about nature and talking about the river of consciousness because we're all in this stream of consciousness in the perception of now and the perspective of now, and it's how that we relate with one another through our daily lives and our expressions of our words and our attention and our care and our conversations and how we walk together on a day-to-day basis that is creating what we would know as humanity or the larger society, the collective whole. And why I may not be able to control the collective whole, I am able to master myself and how I relate beyond myself through my thoughts, through my feelings, through my behaviors, through my awareness, right? And so, what we're really talking about is how do we become aware of what disconnected us from being human and learning to relate in the right way, the right direction. And everybody's a little bit different. People come from different backgrounds. People come from different conditionings and different experiences. So we might not always be able to relate on an intellectual basis or on an emotional level because we haven't developed the responsibilities to hold the capacity and have the capability to look beyond our own belief system, our own perspectives, what we believe is right, and um, and that's all awareness. It's not right or wrong. It's not good or bad or anything like that. But it's allowing us to become truly present with the relationship we have with ourselves, within, the way we communicate with ourselves, the way we hold ourselves accountable to the things that we want to learn, and the ways that we want to grow, and how we want to relate, and what we want our reality to look like. We have influence over that by how we consciously participate in life. Things come up, but how do we handle those things that come up can help us stay in the natural flow of things where, like last week we had talked about, what is the opposite of scarcity, and that's excess. And the interesting part of that is abundance is flow. And everybody's need for abundance is different. And that's why I believe there's great teachings out there like Gandhi, the earth will provide for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed, because nothing in nature has excess without consequence. When we fall out of harmony with our health, we will create illness and disease. And how we mentally and emotionally respond to that through our behaviors, through uh, uh, healing procedures, through herbs, through our diet, through exercise, through sun, through wellness modalities and techniques, and all these different things, we will be able to find wholeness within ourselves again, and then we will be healthy again. So it's not really the judgment of I'm either healthy or I'm not healthy. That's just the beginning of it. That's just part of the awareness. And once we become aware of where we are in the river of consciousness, then we can, as conscious co-creators of our reality, move down the stream of time and space in a more in ordered way. Sometimes there are stories about people going through dark times or chaos or tower moments, or however you want to describe those things. And if you've been a part of the show or know me at all, I've had my own, right? But the question is, how do we adapt? How do we overcome? How do we grow through the circumstances that we've experienced? So those limitations, or those experiences or perceptions that seem limited, aren't a cage that keeps us in suffering. This week I had the opportunity to speak with one of my brothers and sisters about a project that's going on down in the National Boone Forest, where they're destroying, they're clear cutting some of the National Boone Forest and old growth trees. And there's an organization that's trying to do what they can to save them and protect them. And that's a beautiful thing. At the same time, they're already chopping it down. It's already actively going on. And, why they were in emotional turmoil, and saying, we need to do something. And I was like, what? Do you want to have a picnic down there where they're doing it? Because it's already happening. They're already chopped down these trees. They've already done these things. And what we need to do is find a way to share what's going on. But the people that are actually cutting them down with the saws and things, they might agree with the philosophy that we're changing that forest forever, because they're aware. However, they're also aware that they need to feed their family. So with that being said, goes, the moral dilemma of, do I stand in my righteousness and my family suffers because of my morality and my ethics and my unwillingness to participate in something that I don't believe in? Or am I going to make sure my kids are fed and we're going to have the means to be able to continue to survive? And then the question is, okay, well, what are we doing to regenerate the forest as we're taking these 300-year-old trees out, because they're not thousands of years old. So that means they've only been around for a few hundred years, which is a lot for human life. However, for the planet, that's like a drop in the bucket. And how do we become resilient? How do we become sustainable? How do we become resilient? Is when we become aware of possible consequences or effects or rewards, so then we can consciously participate in offsetting those in a more ordered way, so we're not reactive to the chaos of, oh my god, we just destroyed, this forest, and there was an endangered species in there that we didn't see, and now it's gone forever, it's extinct. I mean, we're finding more and more animals, and our ecosystem becoming extinct over the last 100 years than it has for thousands of years, based on the science that's observed it. Welcome, Larkin. What a time to jump in.
Actually, I was trying to sort of connect with your energy and wonder if we were going to be in sync. I was like, I wonder what he's going to talk about. And it's kind of interesting because I was actually thinking about acceptance and where we go from a place of acceptance with things that we want to change when it has to do with other people. So this is perfect for that. It's funny because when my dad fell the other day, and on Monday, and we were in the ER, and on the way home, this relates. I started singing this song I hadn't heard or sung in years. And I'm like, who wrote this? And it was a Beethoven tune that's actually in The Music Man. And I said to my dad, this is either Mozart or Beethoven. I'm disappointed in myself. I can't remember what. Where did this come from? Well, later that night, he wanted to watch a musical. And he was a musician, and he chose The Music Man. And I totally forgot this piece was even in the movie. We're halfway through the movie. I'm like, oh my God. And we looked at each other. It was like, wow, things are really connected. So, hello, everyone. I'm sorry. I've got my parents at my house. I'm caring for my dad. So just as I said, I'll see you in 5 minutes. My dad lost all of his diabetic test stuff, and we were on our hands and knees. Yeah. So anyway, I love what you're talking about here, because I think it's important we take a look at two main things that we always sort of generalize and simplify when we're talking about these types of debatable topics. I'm about as big of an environmentalist as you get. I mean, I literally, when I was 2 and 3, I was like, I'm here to save the earth. Nature is a gift, like this was my obsession. And I can't tell you how much panic I feel when I hear humans destroying nature. I mean, like I'm, totally against that. But Chris's points are so relevant. Those of us that are going to make a difference have to really learn to apply detachment in anything that you want to change, because there's a couple things. And if you guys have notebooks, I would jot this down. These are things I share with my coaching clients. These will really help you in all aspects of life to understand that emotion always trumps logic. So when we're dealing with something where we're triggered emotionally, it's always best to not engage first, whether it's a one-on-one relationship or, no, I'll say always. I mean, maybe that's not true. Maybe you see a dog being attacking another dog, like you can jump in and prevent it, right? But if it's something that's a bigger, long-term, ongoing picture, we have to, in order to, let me back up even further. The people that have the jobs that are cutting down the trees are working for people who 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 are the ones making money. And the people with the power and the money go on the principle that the people that are going to be cutting down the trees and doing the jobs for them are, like Chris was discussing, they have personal needs that have to be met. So if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there's certain principles that all of us, when put in that situation, we will choose. Like we have to have water first, not shelter first, water, right? So you can only go 3 days without water. So you have to have water, you have to have food, you have to have shelter. These main things are at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy. And then as you work your way up, you get into other things, right? And eventually we end up with, you know, um, reproductive needs, social needs, acceptance. Then way at the top, where you have, things like whatever, where everyone's trying to go right now, fulfilling your dreams, living luxury, that type of thing. Um, so if we take what Chris was talking about and we look at the fact that these people that actually have these jobs, this is, for some of them, it is the only livelihood they know, and that is no excuse. I'm not vouching for them, but in order to create change, you have to be able to understand where other people are coming from. Because if you're going to convince people not to cut down trees as their job and that's all they know, and they have to feed their family and they live paycheck to paycheck or day by day, you have to understand how to offer them an alternative to what a billionaire wanting to cut down a forest is going to offer them. You have to have an alternative. I mean, I spent 10 years rescuing horses, which is kind of, there's a dichotomy there, because the whole thing that keeps the horse slaughter pipeline going is the fact that women like me, oh my God, we got to save that one. And we fundraise and we give the people that own the kill pens the money. If we weren't giving the people in the kill pens, if they weren't making money, they wouldn't be doing it. So what, you let 500,000 more horses get slaughtered and nobody rescues. That's what it would take, right? So we have to think in terms of this, right? If you are, you're showing up somewhere and you're making an offer to someone and there's someone else that has an offer for that person, they're going to take the offer that they need or want the most, depending on if they're in a place of need or want. And this is difficult, but this is a negotiating skill that really, it's important really for everyone to understand, because if you're the person who has what someone wants or needs more is the one who's going to win, per se. And so, I'll just throw this out there. Working in the environmental movement for decades since I was a kid, one of the weaknesses I see with those of us that are environmentalists and we're loving nature and all that is we get so caught up in a certain moral standard and trying to convince, and we think we can just do it through education, but a lot of it is awareness. And if someone is living at a different level of consciousness, if they aren't at a point where they even know or care about the environment because their whole life is caught up with keeping roof over their head and they have a hole in their roof and their kid is starving or sick, you better believe that the environment is going to be the last thing they care about. And we have to be able to detach and take a look at that. And when we do, those are the people who can do that, who end up making a big long-term impact. Mind you, I don't even know how this conversation came to be, but I think it's really important because you can apply this in your own life in every way, in getting a job, in getting a loan, in saving maybe your house is going to be foreclosed on. You can apply this to any area of your life, really.
Actually, it works perfectly because before you came on, I was talking about how we try to use nature's examples or observations as universal teachings because it's not based off of somebody's belief system. And so then we start talking about the river and, it just kind of snowballed into all that. But that's exactly true, right? Like it's the most interesting thing that, if you identify a problem, there is a solution, but it's through a relationship that it becomes even viable to change. And a lot of what we may be unconsciously conditioning ourselves and others with is the fact that we do have so much information these days, or access to information these days, and it's partial information. You know, like we can't learn the complexities of what genetically modifying, uh, where it came from thousands of years ago to where it is now, and how the shifts of what we're doing are going to have a lot different effect because we're doing it in the lab versus taking years and years and years of adapting a fruit to produce a different enzyme so it does this instead of that, you know. I mean, there's so much, you know, complexity to the way that we operate at this time and space of human evolution and the planet. And while it's easy to go rah 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 rah, I don't agree with this, we're all equals, we're all equals. But you know, every rally I've ever gone to that was fighting for human rights was just as violent and just as vulgar and just as whatever to whatever side that they were opposing, as like, no, wait, we all should be equal. So why were we even having this conversation? Like, we need to start treating each other as equals, you know, and then the system is going to naturally reflect that because the system is man-made. So if human consciousness can shift, then the systems will shift because the people that are running and creating and all that, they're at a higher frequency of consciousness of cause and effect. So, you know, things are going to
Right.
evolve in ways versus my way is right, your way is wrong, because that never goes well in any conversation. Doesn't matter what you're trying to discuss.
Oh, you just go in circles. Absolutely.
Yeah, I could see you having a talk with your dad about him trying to walk with him being dizzy. Like, you can't reason with him of like, don't do this, you could fall.
That's right.
Now,
And you leave the room and he gets up.
multiple falls, then he realizes, okay, and you know, this is where
Maybe.
I'm
Yes, that has yet to be seen, right?
at. Right. Well, hopefully there's evolution somewhere
Well,
eventually.
we should hope, you know. I mean, I think it's important for us to remember that, you know, the macrocosm reflects the microcosm, right? So our collective ego is going to reflect our individual ego, which is why the awareness is so important.
Mhm.
As you learn self-control, as you learn detachment, as you learn, you know, introspection. And Chris, you brought up a good point. I mean, you have to go through that point of relationship to get a mutual outcome of a real impact. And the way you said it, you know, it just made me think, it made me laugh because it's true. I mean, you have both sides not really listening to each other, just trying to be louder. Ooh, this one had this, you know, this event, and then this one went ahead and did that. And we have to step back and look at what is the outcome we really want, and what mutual outcome do we have? Because usually somewhere in any argument, there's usually some mutual outcome that someone can agree on, right? I mean, it might be, you know, two people so mad at each other, they keep upping the ante. And in the end, you know, one's got a time bomb and one's got a grenade. And in the end, what is the base bottom line here? They both would like to stay alive. Okay. So then we start with that. You know, that's a little dramatic, but you have to start with that, because when you are introspective and aware enough that you know yourself, then and only then do you know others. Then can you look at someone who's doing something horrific that you might need to negotiate your way out of, and recognize in some ways they are like you. Now, maybe their personality isn't, maybe the way they do things, maybe their belief system and everything is different, but they still have the same inner wants and needs.
Right.
Right. And so we have to go that deep sometimes. And sometimes we have to give a little bit in order to make some progress. And that can be hard too. But I mean, this is all, you know, that's self-control. And again, guys, we have to remember we all physiologically function the same way. Emotion trumps logic. And when we react emotionally, it's usually not a positive outcome that we want. It gives me such a great vision hearing you talk about this, Chris, because, if we took big issues like animal rights, human rights, the environment, and we didn't just handle it with these big displays, which only makes, whatever side you're on feel better whenever that display happens.
Right.
Think about it. If you're arguing with someone, are you making them agree with what you're saying? You're not.
Right.
So my point of the micro and macro, the individual ego versus the collective, is you should do more listening in an argument than talking, because that gives you the signs and signals as to how to work your way out. It gives you the information. Chances are what you're saying is going in one ear and out the other, or it's just giving the other person's ego or the other teams or the other side's collective ego something to push against. And we have to remember ego is not bad. This always has ego involved. So if you're pushing against something that you want to change, what you resist will persist. I don't remember who said that, but I use it all the time. It's so many years ago, a mentor of mine started using that. And I can't remember.
It's like coaching foundational principle 101 or something.
Yeah. It said that though. It was very significant. And I actually haven't heard it said that often. I've only heard it said recently.
Oh my gosh, I've heard it my whole career.
I haven't. Yeah. But I think it's just important that you guys understand that, sometimes you have to do the opposite of what the ego is telling you, because the egos would like to keep you in conflict. The ego feeds off of that resistance. And so you always have to ask yourself, do I really want a resolution to this? Or do I want to feel like I'm winning the argument? Do I really want a resolution to this? Or do I want to feel as though I'm winning the argument? And that's a very pertinent question.
It was Carl Jung.
You hit the buttons, it sounds like boom. I'm like, I'm sure I type stuff too.
I don't know why I felt so called to do that. Usually I don't get so distracted when we're
I know.
I'm gonna do this now.
It's good. You might as well be playful, guys. When you get too serious and into stuff, it's always good to be playful. It's always good to be lighthearted. It's always good to be unbothered. Give a little air to whatever is going on that you're resisting or whoever you're dealing with, and just watch how it magically turns around. I was listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer with my parents. My dad wanted to watch another Western, and I was like, I've got him on this regiment in the morning. It's like something educational, right? So I turned on Dr. Wayne Dyer, and it was funny, but he was doing a seminar where he had asked to have water on stage, and he was reminding people. He said, he's picking up, and he's like, the tighter you hold water, the more it escapes you. But if you cup your hands, then it can flow through your hands or over your hands. You can hold it for a split second because you have an open hand. Mm-hmm. Right? And he was just talking about the nature of water. If you want to be with it, you really have to flow with it. Mm-hmm. You have to become a part of it the way that it is. You can't really try to control water. And that's how life is. And he was doing teachings from Lao Tzu, that Lao Tzu had been teaching about how the more you try to hold on and control something, the more it slips away from you and is out of your control. So guys, whether that's manifesting, whether that's change and transformation, regardless of whatever it is, just keep that water principle in mind.
It was something that I heard and I shared with somebody the other day, and I really appreciated it. It was like, life's serious, but not to be taken seriously. Yes. It matters. It's not like we're running around just, hula hooping and throwing fire and, doing fun things because, I'm not saying there's not a time and place.
I'm just kidding. I'm not really doing those things.
there's a time for the inner child to be an adult and move into the roles that we're here, the stewards were here to be. And like if like I love that line. I think it was a Will Smith, and I think it was like a conspiracy movie. I forget, with Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
Um, but he was like buying lingerie, and like the woman's kind of giving him a hard time. And he's like, "Well, I only do it on the week. I only cross dress on the weekends. Like, like I only, like, like, like I don't, it's not my whole being. I just do it for fun sometimes. Just to remind myself to experience beyond. And my life has been a collection of that with other people. Of pushing taboos and walking into places, and really discovering what it means to be human, and how to walk in the right relationship through those different things. Because no matter what anyone wants to say about the taboo things, there's always a process, there's always a level of respect, there's always this, that, or the other. And that's why people push those boundaries, is so they can develop things like that sometimes. um, is that the healthiest way? I'm not here to judge that. It's not my thing. But I have met couples that really explored the depths of trust and being able to just completely um, trust their partner, because they put themselves in situations where they could have been hurt or killed, and because of that, their bond is stronger. Um, that's not everybody's way, and that's the beautiful thing about the variety of life's expressions, is it's not for everybody. Like, life is very diverse and has variation for a reason. And then we get to develop these relationships between all these things. Maybe it lasts for a year, maybe it's a one-time experience, maybe it's something that is walked through for, like, you try to take me away from nature and I'm going to have a hard time, because that's something that I've used my whole life to find the stillness and quietness within myself. Like, you put me in a place where I'm monitored 24 hours a day, and I don't have access to, know, observation, I'm thinking like a concrete,
Yeah.
whatever. After a period of time, I'm going to freak the fuck. I'm going to freak out.
Too.
Like, it's just like, it's definitely going to have an effect that I don't know, because I haven't gone through that experience, nor do I really want to. Um, However, I've put myself in other situations where I'm like, the gas chamber in boot camp sucked, but there was parts of it I really enjoyed. And overcoming adversity, and finding out what you're able to overcome, and all these various different things is part of that intrinsic value that we can't monetize through a life experience. And why a lot of time wisdom comes through pain, is because we have to sit with it longer than pleasure, because pleasure, we're just enjoying whatever it is. And I've even known my own practice of where I wanted to be grateful for everything that showed up. It didn't necessarily meant I really liked it, but I was grateful to show up, to be able to learn to process, or to reflect, or to not react in a way that I had in the past, because my focus was finding that space within myself to know that I'm walking the path that I'm meant to walk. And you can't base that off of anyone else's story, map, judgment. Like, you have to find that in here, where, at the end of the day, you're like, it didn't maybe be the way that I would have preferred it to be, but I'm grateful for the opportunity for it to be the way that it was, because tomorrow is a new day. An hour from now, who knows what's going to happen? I could be in a bad mood and things aren't working out and da 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 da, and oh my god, da 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 da, and then next thing you know, like thing shows up and you're like, oh, like,
daddy do.
yeah, like, I had a friend like was all excited because like she's been freaked out about trying to buy a car and how am I going to buy a car and oh my god, da 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 da, and then she showed up. She's nannying her nephew, and her brother-in-law showed up like, here's a new car, like this is part of your payment, like this is part of your pay, like I need you to have a good car because you're driving my son around and you need a new car. So like, here's a way that this can work. And the same thing with the car that I drive. It was exchanged for, healing sessions and coaching and, those types of things, because I needed a car and they had one. And so that was an easy exchange. And sometimes we get caught up in how much money is in the bank, and then we forget the true abundance of the moment of like, it can happen at any time. Are we creating opportunities? Are we presenting opportunities to create new outcomes and new circumstances? Or are we just wallowing in the mud of like, oh, I tried this one time and it didn't work?
Absolutely. That's a big trap right there.
Yeah.
I mean, and we've talked about that before on other broadcasts. We'll talk more about tenacity. I mean, it is important, to not, we are in a world where people look at things and they say, oh, well, that didn't work, and I'm looking at that going, did you even try? Like, yeah, I tried really hard. I tried one time, it's like, oh, I tried 3 times. Like, to me, that's not trying. To me, you don't, failure only happens when you're like, okay, I give up. Now, sometimes there are things you need to give up on and say, okay, I'm going to try a different route. Right. But it doesn't mean you have to give up on a vision. It's just
like
guiding you in the direction. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
The secret, like everybody that went on The Secret, like if you would really know their stories or listen to what they said, it took decades to get to where they're saying it with, yeah, it happened to me. I manifested my dreams. Da, 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 da. Yeah, it took you 3 decades. It took you 20 years to get that dream house that, you wrote a plan for, 20 years ago and put it in a folder and forgot about it. And then,
right.
Then you happen to, go through some old stuff and like, oh, wow, look, a breadcrumb. Like,
well, that's important. I mean, I love sharing that with my clients because it's very true. When the one guy pulls out, that vision board and shows his son, and it's the very house they're living on, I'm sorry, I don't remember which teacher that was, but
it's like Dan. I think his name was Dan. Oh no, John. John.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Or something.
Yes, I know who it is. But it was amazing. But sometimes, see, that's when it happens because, as Eckhart Tolle says, you have to let go of the outcome. And again, we go back to Dr. Wayne Dyer was talking about you can't hold on to water, right? Mm-hmm. And so, not to change subjects, but that also goes along with the principle of manifesting, whereby you have to have the vision and put in the emotion, but then you have to let go of the outcome. When we hang on to and we measure our outcomes, we can be certain that this probably not going to happen, at least when or how or the way that we want it to, right?
Is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? Is it ready
yes,
yet?
Because hanging on to it creates resistance, right? Abraham Hicks says every story is 2 stories. Well, that's what happens. You're measuring, is it coming yet? Is it coming? Well, what that sends out is a frequency of lack. You obviously don't have it. So the universe is like, oh, you obviously can't receive it, right? So that's important. And another thing, Chris, you mentioned when we do a live and we talk more about gratitude, I'm huge about gratitude. I think you brought up a really good aspect of gratitude, which is most people, when you share with them about gratitude, they think that means they have to perceive it as, the thing, they have to look for only the things they want, or the things that worked out the way that they wanted, or the things that make them feel all bubbly. Feeling gratitude doesn't necessarily mean that you're like, oh, that's my favorite thing. It might be that, you get the wedding dress, but it wasn't the wedding dress. Maybe the wedding dress was $10,000. I think it's ridiculous, the whole wedding industry, but I'm using this as an example, right? I mean, no way. I was like, I won't pay more than this much. Really, it's ridiculous. But let's say the wedding dress you wanted was $10,000. And so, you're feeling grateful for, the $100 dress that you got. Okay. But you might be like, well, I can't really feel gratitude for that because I was really in love with the other one. Yes, you can. The feeling of gratitude itself has nothing to do with whether you're excited about it, or whether it's your favorite, or whether it makes you feel bubbly, or any of those other positive emotions. It's simply gratitude. It is its own experience. And something terrible can happen, and you can be like, wow, I'm so grateful. Like when my husband slipped on wet leaves 2 years ago and flipped his car, the airbag didn't go off, but the car freaking saved his life. The airbag didn't go off. He rolled twice. He hit a telephone pole head on, not a scratch, not a concussion, nothing. So yeah, we lost the car. It was totaled. But, were there feelings of warm, fuzzy, and excitement that went on during that time while we were grateful? No. There was a lot going on there. We had to pay for the freaking telephone pole. But there was a lot of feeling of gratitude, because there's so much more that could have happened. All the things that were important happened. He was safe. He was fine. And we realized what an awesome car that had been. At which point there was gratitude for he had chose that vehicle. Right. So just keep that in mind. Chris reminded me of that because I teach gratitude all the time. But that's such an important principle we normally don't talk about, which is don't confuse the experience of gratitude with all these warm, fuzzy emotions that you want to have. Because sometimes you're going through a trauma and you're feeling gratitude.
If you're grounded, there's an opportunity, and that's you moving through it. I mean, when I broke my back, I remember like none of the things, like the whole UT, the whole thing, like none of it was proper. And, like it was so improper that when we shared our experience with the hospital, they were just like, yeah, we'll just wash your medical bills away. I was like, okay, cool. Thanks. Like we won't sue you. Just don't make me pay for this service. But I remember sitting in the neuro department and like people are in halos and everything. And I was like, wow, like I'm so grateful that one, we're all moving and walking because my ex-wife's grandfather was a quadriplegic. So I got to witness what it's like not to be able to scratch your nose, or shoo a fly, or, like, so I lived with that for many years of what that looked like. And then being able to walk and be able to like, it was just a snowball effect. Not that there was everything was perfect, and, I love the fact that they told me that I was going to have all these issues my whole life. And like, no, and that's the experience that I had. Now I've gotten to share that with other people. I've gotten to work with people with cancer that were told that they weren't going to live past 6 months. And now they're cancer free going on, 6 months, and, all these various different things that have shown up. And it's like, that's how do we participate? What is the quality and quantity of consciousness that we're going to participate in? Because that matters.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's continuously bringing up stuff from the past, it's because they haven't processed their accountability and their responsibility. They haven't reconciled more often than not. Because when we can look at ourselves and say, I misstepped, I misunderstood, I took things for granted, I made a mistake, whatever that was, to reconcile within ourselves, that we learn from an experience, then we usually have an awareness of like how we're going to continue to walk in a in a more profound way or in a simpler way, as we're defining the compass and gauge and all that right now. And we're looking at all these various different things, like what is contribution? Do we when do we contribute when we smile at a stranger or open a door for somebody that's got their hands full? Like, how are we measuring how we walk each and every moment of this day in those things? Or is it solely on how much money did we make? Did I meet my goals? Did I check all the boxes to my to-do list? Like, those are very important questions, I think, within our own consciousness of how we are being as individuals, because we've been so conditioned to focus on the relationships outside of how we're serving. And then the flip side of that is, oh, well, you have to serve yourself first, because if you don't serve yourself the best meal, then you might not have enough to give. You're going to give it all away, and you might not have enough for yourself. So, like, there's discernment through all of this stuff. And that's what I'm so excited about, doing these talks and all the things that we're doing, Larkin, and sharing our clients and people who just get to tune in for the day or the moment or whatever. If, like, we can cause one ripple, that's it. Like, we did our contribution for the day. How it was received, not so much our responsibility. Oh, but we can always enhance that way, right? Like, how I speak today is a lot different than I spoke when I first started this journey.
Absolutely.
And that's how we can recognize our evolution without quantifying it by a role or by a certification or by a profession or by any other conditions. We can really look at, like, okay, like, on to the next thing, because that's how the river flows. Like, if we're canoeing together, like,
right,
we can enjoy the time that the rapids are calm and smooth, and we can take in all the views and the vistas and the all the nice things. And then when it's time to get to the rapids, it's like, we need to read the rapids and participate as we're going through this, because if you're watching a bird fly by and I need
see somebody else pop back out of the raft, which it happens. You're down the river and you're like, wait, where's so and so?
Yeah.
Yeah. It happens. I mean, I think it's interesting. I want us to do one of these on being conscientious, because a lot of what you're talking about is really being conscientious, and it's something that in the rat race we've gotten away from, and unfortunately younger generations are being in the effort to keep up with everyone and everything, and that's done intentionally, guys, by the way. If we stay distracted with having to keep up with things, and I'm, again, you guys know I'm all about earning the money so that you have the freedom to fulfill your dream and do good with it. That part I'm for. I'm not for the propaganda and the sucking people in, the distraction that is, well, next year this is the latest suburban vehicle that comes out, and so you have to get this color. See, all those things are a distraction, right? You have to have this shoe this year, you have to have this, those things are distractions, because you only have so much time and energy. And once you get caught up in that, then the other things don't matter, because we are clan animals. We are animals. We're clan animals. And so we're driven to look a certain way, to be accepted, to be a certain way, to fit in a certain way, to be accepted, right? So we always choose a group to be accepted by. And so, kind of to summarize in a different way, what Chris is saying, it's so important we get to know ourselves. We know how to hold ourselves accountable, because in the end, whatever it is we don't like about ourselves and our life, we have to be the ones to create that change and transformation, which means we have to know ourselves well enough to make powerful choices, to take radical responsibility. And even backing up to what you were saying, Chris, even if it's something that, let's say we didn't have much to do with, talking about taking radical responsibility and accountability for our parts. Sometimes we don't even have that much to do with it. Sometimes, someone has done something to us repeatedly. What is your accountability there? How did you teach them to teach you? Why and when did you not choose to walk away or to say no? That's your part in that, right? And
even picking up trash, like we went for a hike yesterday and picked up a bag full of trash.
Yep.
We didn't put it there, but it was there. So do we choose to pick it up, or do we choose to just step over it and pretend that it doesn't exist? There's all the different ways.
And there's little broad aspects to this. I mean, I have a lot of German in me. So, a lot of people around me, my family and friends and people I board with who are not as particular as I am, so like, oh, you're OCD. Okay, well, I'm not OCD, but I have a system for everything. And guys, what we call successful or wealthy people or people that fulfill their dreams, like Jane Goodall, anyone that creates their vision creates a system that works, whether it has to do with money or not. If you successfully create and fulfill your vision, you have a system. And so, for me, it gets very lonely because I'm surrounded by all these people that don't have a system, or that, from my perspective, are sloppy. And a lot of people are the way that they think. But time is money, and time is really, there is no such thing as time. But in this reality, there is, right?
There's no such thing as money either. So,
right. But that's energy. But if we're talking about, time in this world, though, time is money. But let's say we're not talking about money. Let's say we're just talking about, like, for me, it's time. I spend all night at the barn because I got 4 horses and I've got to do stuff. The last thing I want when I'm going to be trying to work and take care of my parents and have an hour's drive both ways is to show up and find that my stuff is broken, or that I have to, and I find this all the time. And it's not just where I am now. I find this repetitively in my 15 years of having horses, or when I worked at the parks. I didn't find it at the zoo. At the zoo, everybody did what they were supposed to. But I did find this when I worked at the parks. Whatever mess, my mom was a Montessori teacher. So for those of you into Montessori, I was a Montessori kid. Whatever you don't clean up of your mess ends up on somebody else's plate, right? I mean, so if you make dinner and you use the stove and the sink and you're like, okay, great, I got my dinner now, I'm going to go sit down in front of the TV and forget it. At some point, you or whoever you live with is going to have to pick that up. I mean, like last night I went to sweep up the barn because the barn hadn't been swept. I was going to sweep it for everybody. I finally found my broom and it was full of cobwebs. Now, I was very grateful. I don't like taking down cobwebs. I was so grateful that someone had used that broom and taken down cobwebs. I don't know where they were from, but I was like, this is awesome. The problem is, and this is probably just a lack of awareness. I don't know what it is because I don't want to pick on people. But in my reality, at 3 a.m., I had to, it sounds like a little thing, guys, but I had to clean that entire broom of cobwebs that didn't want to come off before I could even use it. And if it's one thing, it's fine. But let's say it's a dozen. Let's say it's a dozen things, right? So I always try to be conscientious of, if I'm going to start something or make a mess or move something, who is coming next to me, after me? Who am I impacting? If you're driving on the road and someone speeds up and cuts in front of you, you guys use car examples all the time, but think about it. There's nobody behind me. And somebody wastes gas, speeds, puts me and them and other people in danger, risks our cars and our lives, only to cut in front of me with a foot or less of space at 70 miles an hour, to get off that exit, that they're going to slam their brakes on, and then I got to slam my brakes at 70 miles an hour. I mean, I'm just throwing this out there. Why? At the core of it, this is the kind of details Chris and I are talking about. Are you living a conscientious life? Are you thinking about how what you do impacts you and others. Is it worth it just for the adrenaline rush or to get in front of the next person? Because I'll tell you what, on the road, nobody's in front, guys. You go a little farther, I mean, nobody's in front, and there's nothing funnier than having somebody speed by you 30 miles an hour faster than you, only to end up at the stoplight next to them. Maybe those kind of people aren't humbled by that, but I would be embarrassed. So, think about it. When you use the last bit of the toilet paper roll, do you replace it? Or does the next guy that comes in and has to take a poo get stuck in this bathroom and there's not, really, this is the reality of it. Go to
the shopping cart. I mean, there's so many great examples. It's very simplistic, but that's why it's overlooked, right? Like it's like the smallest thing, and like I don't want, we don't want to make a big deal like, there's not one CEO that doesn't put their grocery cart away, and chances are once they get to a certain level, they don't, because they don't shop anymore, because they hire somebody to do that, because that's something that
and that person does.
Yeah.
It's the truth, though. I mean, Chris and I aren't being pricks here, guys. We're just saying, pay attention to this little stuff, because for people who don't, they think we're being OCD and being a prick. And we're not, because this is part of, Chris is always talking about community, but this is why he's caring about it. This is part of community. This is what makes community work. And if everybody's not at least learning to be conscientious in this way and think about how they're affecting the next person or the people around them, community doesn't work well. And we need it anyway. Yeah. We need community anyway. I have to share this story because it always cracks me up. I remember going to the grocery store one time by my parents, and I parked in this little aisle that I liked. And there was a lower set of parking spots, and then there was one just up on a hill. And I remember that day, there were almost no spots. I parked up on the hill, and I swear to God, I pulled my cart up. I was going to put my groceries in, and I watched this guy. He had just finished loading his car, and he turned around, and he was standing there holding the cart, eyeballing the row of cars at the bottom of the hill. And I thought, now, what is he doing? And I assumed he was just another lazy person looking for a place to put his cart because he didn't want to bother to, no, he was targeting a car. This car he wanted to shoot the cart at. And then he pulled back, and with all of his might, he shot the car down the hill and into that vehicle. And guys, you can't make this shit up. And he was like, all happy with himself and got in the car. Now, I don't know. I know, I'm sure he didn't know who it was. He was just excited to have all these cars to pick.
Oh my goodness.
So, if you don't have anything better to do in life, guys, I don't know. All I can imagine is on his life review, he's going to be like, what was I thinking?
What a joy that guy probably is to be around,
Oh my God. It was just funny, but it was the delight of his day, and I guessed for a million years, that's not what I guessed. I was like, what is he doing? But man, I did not guess that's what he was doing.
He was having a bad day and just wanted, to
made him feel better for some reason. Anyway,
but
well, guys, it is 1:21, but Chris, this was an amazing conversation. Thank you for starting this.
Mm-hmm.
And fixing the icon. And fixing the icon that I had swapped out.
Yeah, I paid attention. Once we're live, you're like, whatever, and then we'll deal with that later. But thanks again for everybody joining in. Absolutely, Jonathan. Sounds good, Jonathan. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to today's show. Of course, check out our free discovery sessions to work with us further and find out how we can help you through your deficits of your energetic flow in your conscious river, so we can raise the vibration and you're not hit your bum on the rocks. Why not? So you can check that out at enhancingyourworld.com. We'll be definitely doing another broadcast this week.
And the YouTube page. Yes. And YouTube guys. Check out our YouTube page. We're struggling to build. actually there's a system for building a YouTube page and getting it going, and we haven't jumped into that system yet. But we would appreciate you guys sharing it and getting it going, helping us with that. So
yeah, thanks so much. And
probably
we'll see.
listening already.
Well, I mean, yeah, life circumstances come up. It's like, what's the most important thing? YouTube, not so much. We got to deal with these other things. So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Life happens, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Everything has its time. So, yeah.
Yep, exactly. All right. Thanks again. And we'll talk next week.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.